Welcome to the Center for Teaching and Learning. Today, our faculty and staff is sharing information about the Lilly Conference and the Trend Conference that they attended in October of 2013.
Everybody's going to give about 5-8 minutes of the best information they got from their conferences. And hopefully this will get out to you in a format that's easy to digest, and we can have some more conversations and perhaps create some focus groups to use this information to help Kirtland get better. The 2 or 3 best sessions I went to were all about student engagement and better ways that we can engage our students. If you guys looked at the program, there were over 20 sessions start to finish that were on student engagement, active learning, flipped classrooms, collaborative learning. There were over 20 sessions, so it's obviously a huge topic. It's not something that's going away. It's backed by lots of research. So one of the presentations I went to was about how to create more energy in your class, how to teach with more. The session was actually called How to Teach with Panache. So the idea was to start transforming our presentations in the way that we do things. So when you walked in, what did I have going on? I had music on, right? That creates an environment. It makes the classroom more welcoming, and it's going to encourage your students to start talking before class, and that's a huge thing, is to get them to start talking. The other session I went to, so I'm going to have my picture representation of the one session. The other thing was that there were 10 small things that we can all do in our classrooms to help improve our effectiveness. And the first thing was to post a daily agenda. It sounds simple, but posting a daily agenda lets our students know where we're going for that day. It helps them feel like they have a plan going in and they're not going into the day blind. The second thing was getting to know your students. So know them by name, know a little bit about them, be there early, know their names as quickly as possible in the beginning of the semester, know a little bit about them, ask questions, talk to them before and after class. Show students that you care. Now there's different ways that we can do that. But you can simply show them that you care by showing up on time, by being there early. That shows that you care about them, that you care about their time. Starting class on time. Having a plan for the day and sharing that in your agenda. Welcome them into the room. Say hello. Shake their hand. Don't be occupied preparing your class. Be more in tune with them and trying to get them into the room, welcome them for the day, and find out a little bit more about them. And be approachable. Many times students are saying that our faculty are not approachable, and this was a student survey. All this information came from student surveys from Central Michigan that they did. They felt that professors weren't approachable. So make sure that you're accessible, that you have office hours, you have an open door policy. Make sure that you're making yourself easy to talk to. Help students get to know each other. So we need to set up activities, icebreakers, different collaborative activities in the classrooms where they can actually talk and start to build those social networks and those study groups. Also, we can break up the lecture with active learning and collaborative learning activities. Again, this was a huge, huge point on the of the Lilly conference. Like I said, there's over 20 sessions just on active learning. So the suggestion was to lecture for 15 minutes and then give them 3 to 4 minutes to break up and do a quick activity before you come back to another lecture. So instead of doing one long lecture with maybe one activity, start breaking it up into mini lectures, approximately 15 minutes long, then give them a chance to work with the information. Communicate clear expectations. So if your students don't know what you expect, it's going to be really hard for them to be successful. So use your rubrics and share your rubrics with them when you're evaluating their work. There was an entire session dedicated to providing feedback to our students. This was directed specifically online, but it also applies face-to-face. What we need to do is we need to give them timely feedback on their work. And we as a group, I'd like to form some focus groups on what feedback looks like. What feedback should look like for Kirtland, what it should look like in our departments, what it should look like online, and set that as a discussion for us to set some standards for feedback, because it's one of the main things that's going to help our students achieve and be more successful in our classes is if they get timely, appropriate feedback. Also, regularly review learning objectives, assessments, and activities to make sure they're aligned. And so obviously, if you're reviewing your material, making sure that you are aligned with your outcomes and your objectives, you'll obviously be able to see if something's out of alignment. So you can make that adjustment. Move around. They don't want you to be a statue up in the front of the room. Obviously, we're pinned to a camera today, but they want you to move around. We luckily have the classrooms that enable us to do that with our active learning labs. Don't just sit behind a podium. Don't just sit at a desk. They want you to move around. And then also, we just did this as a college, but conduct your own mid-semester surveys. Have a feedback session with your students where you actually talk to them, or refer back to the survey the college did, or the faculty. I would be happy to come into your classrooms, talk with your students at around this time or any time, and we could do some feedback, see what they're doing to enhance their own learning, see what they would like to see more of in your class, and find out maybe those things that aren't working so well. So that's what I'm here to do for you.
Hi, I'm Marcel Romanke, and I attended the Trends Conference in Traverse City a couple weeks ago. And at the Trends Conference, I did presentations along with Lisa Lashley and Jim Eastman. But while I was there, I also attended a couple sessions. And one of those sessions that I attended was on the 10 Principles of Success. I don't know if I can show it, maybe. But anyway, the 10 Principles of Success. The first principle is the principle of obedience, meaning that if you listen to other people, you will start finding that you can end up developing success. Second principle was having a cause. If we have something that we want to achieve and want to reach and get to, we can end up coming up with that quite easily. So make sure you have a cause, what you're going forward with. Step 3 was principles of having faith. Faith that you're going to succeed and that you're going to get somewhere with what you're doing, because if you accomplish that and you know what you happen to have going on with that, then faith in it will help you out along the way. The fourth principle is the principle to take what you have and make the most of it. Not always do you have everything that you need, but if you take those things to and work through those things and get them to come along the way, and you can see that you're making progress with stuff, you got to make the most of what you got. Then principle 5 is, along the way, whenever you try to succeed, you run across people who are naysayers, and those kind of aren't the best people out there to run across, but you have them, and so they're your doubters. So your main goal is to convince those doubters that you can go somewhere, and don't let them override what you're doing and say, oh, you can't do that. Take it the next step. Make sure you can. And then 6 is be selective. We can't do everything. So when you want to succeed, you want to pick out the things that you're going to do the best at. And so you want to make sure that works. Principle 7 was take action. Action's what makes things go forward. If you don't work with it and you don't do something with it, then you can't get anywhere. Principle 8 is finish the job. If you start something, complete it, because then you know whether you're successful or not. And if you don't complete it, maybe you got right on just the edge of getting something to be successful. And number 9 is don't let defeat you. This presenter said that if you look at some of the different inventors that are out there, and those inventors take a look at the things that they're inventing, and they go through and they work with those things, they did a lot of bad things as far as developing stuff, and they may not have worked. But you gotta keep going. If you get a defeated attitude towards stuff, success doesn't follow along with that. So you want to make sure you do that. And then finally, the last one is the principle to believe. That you've got to believe in what you're doing. And if you believe in it, then others start believing in you. And so that was the stuff that he presented. He also talked about a book, and that book was Eat That Frog. I don't know. Some people saw that, or when I mentioned that, I was like, oh, eat that frog. Well, that means to get rid of the things that you don't like to do first. So if you think about eating a frog, it may not be the tastiest thing you've ever ate, but do that. and I know Greg had said he has that book available if somebody wants to borrow it. So that was that one that I attended, and then I also did one on depression, which not the happiest thing you want to go for, but at least they gave us some ideas of sending students to see counselors and all of the different aspects of that and what drug-induced depression can be and all those different things. But that's what I had attended, and with being a presenter at 2 sessions, that didn't allow me to attend a variety of things.
I went to a few sessions. I went to all the sessions, and I went to the comics one. I went to the strategies to get students talking in class, and so most of the sessions that I went to were sort of about this like active learning and making the learning experience not only a like a helpful one, but also a sort of connection to like your personal like story. And so one of the things that I've been really thinking about a lot is sort of facilitating in the classroom in such a way that the focus is more on the process of learning versus the actual like acquisition of knowledge. And so that means constantly questioning your students. So a lot of times, like I know like when I am about to sit down with students, I have all of these things that I want to accomplish for the day. And there's sort of a thought process that I had to go through to get to come to all those conclusions. Oh, we need to learn this today. And so what I do is I sit back and I ask the students themselves the same questions that I had to ask myself to get to those conclusions. And a lot of times it might take them a little bit longer to make the connections, but I find that they usually end up coming up with these conclusions themselves and accomplishing the things that I wanted them to accomplish just by thinking about, like one of my main questions is, it's a very simple question, is like, so what are we doing today? Like this is what we did last week. What makes the most sense to do right now? So sort of incorporating that sort of step back and say everybody has to go through this learning process, and there is a process, and a lot of times that is a lot more helpful than just plugging information into them. And that was probably my biggest thing, and it seemed like that was a theme for a lot of the sessions. We even had, in the comic session, we didn't have a leader. The speaker didn't show up, and so what we did was we all went around and like everybody just asked questions, and that was probably one of the most helpful sessions that I had. Was this just sort of just natural sort of dialogue-based learning. So yeah.
Door, nursing education, and I went to the Trends Conference, and I went to quite a few different activities. So the first one that I went to was capturing the cost of accredited health careers programs. So it was kind of a financial piece, and the presenters were Lansing Community College, and they talked about how they went through their program and captured really lost revenue and increased their dollars for those programs, because health career programs seem to be a lose money program in a lot of institutional organizations. So they talked about how they are trying to get their break-even concept, which I'm sure all facilities want to at least do that or even make some money. So they had some interesting information on that. And actually I was able to grab their spreadsheet that they used for their nursing program and share some ideas with my director in regards to that. Since we're looking at, in fall of 2014, starting our new program, that maybe this would be a good time that we could start looking at some of those classes to capture some of that revenue, because I know that I was actually amazed sitting there and thinking, oh my gosh, we don't do that, or we don't, you know what I mean, to see if it's even possible if we can do that. And ultimately they pay 3 full-time salaries out of their course fees for that program. So that was interesting to me. The other thing I went to was a flipping the classroom, and I do have some ideas for math if you want to talk to me in regards to that, what I learned. But I've been to a couple conferences on flipping the classroom, and I actually have two flipped courses right now. It's nursing assessment and pediatrics. And I started that with pediatrics last winter semester, so this is my second semester with that, and it's also hybrid. And then with assessment, it is as well hybrid, and we have flipped the classroom. So there's been some struggles for me, struggles for students, and I'm always wondering, am I doing this right? You know what I mean? I'm questioning myself. And then the conferences I go to, oh yeah, they're struggling with the same thing, so I must, we must be doing it right. It's not a total disaster because we all are going through the same struggles. So I learned some new interesting things with that in regards to lecture, because as you know, with a flipped classroom, lecture is outside of the classroom. We record it, it's video recorded, and I learned some really good information about how to actually record the lecture. Some of mine are like 30-40 minutes long, and they said that really the best way to do it is to break it up into like 8 to 9 minute lectures to cover the entire content. So I just implemented that with my lecture last week. Actually, I recorded and videoed my lecture at Trends using Coach's Eye, and that worked out pretty good. And then the other one I went to was critical thinking, and this one was really good because although we want our students to be critical thinkers, and as a nurse I'm a critical thinker, it's sometimes hard to evaluate how students think critically in a clinical setting. So I was hoping that I would get some information, and I did. We watched 2 video clips in this, and it was, I think, 12 Angry Men. Is that right, or 10 Angry Men? 12 Angry Men. So we watched it when they were debriefing, the jury was debriefing in the room, and we had some questions we had to think about during that to see about how they think and apply critical thinking. The other one was Flight of the Phoenix movie clip, and it was when they took off in the plane and then they actually crashed. And one of the things that we had to do was assumption, plan, and rationale, and it was an activity, and that they both were really great clips to actually, you could show students and have them do some critical thinking activities with that. And then the other thing that was exciting about that is when I talked to him afterwards and told him what I did and what the struggle is, I think, for nursing instructors to evaluate critical thinking, he talked about some oral rubrics that he uses, because a lot of they write papers on critical thinking, and it's more concrete for him to assess them versus when you're in a clinical setting. So he's going to share some of that information. He did send me an email, so if anyone's looking for a rubric like that, I'd be more than happy to share.
So what were some of the active learning strategies that you picked up that were talked about?
Like when flipping the classroom? Well, the part with doing their they actually bring the homework into the classroom. So for like math, for example, is where you teach them I'm not a real good math person, but you teach them the concept or the formula, I guess I should say, in your lectures and show them outside the classroom, and you bring them in to actually do their homework. It's kind of like reversed. Instead of giving them 50 problems that they work on at home, they actually work on those in the classroom where the instructor's right there to help them through those difficult parts, instead of sitting at home, when you're working on your math problems and you can't figure this out or you don't remember how to do that. They're actually in the classroom doing that. And then I have a bunch of activities for active learning as far as, I don't know if you want me to share all those.
Yeah, sure.
But,
if you have
another one actually that I forgot, another conference I went to was actually integrating iPads and ebooks into nursing education, and that was really interesting as well. Some of the challenges are the cost to students, but when they looked at it, really, if they buy the iPad with the ebook access code, it actually is either a reduced cost to them in regards to the textbooks, because the textbooks are $250, some of the nursing textbooks, and then the support that they needed from their IT department and the college to be able to make this happen. And I have her email. She's she did a fantastic job. So, and then there's all kinds of active learning. You can write concepts on a beach ball and you throw it out to the groups, and whatever side's facing them, that's the concept they work on, and different stations that they move around the classroom with, and case studies are always good, and role playing. There was just a lot of different things. So.
Hi, I'm Angela Rosny. I'm an adjunct English instructor, and I attended the Lilly conference. A couple of the sessions that I went to that I really enjoyed, one was talking about using instructional technology in the classroom and using different applications that you can find on the App Store and implementing into your classroom, like taking polls and doing online pin boards. And then another one that I went to that I really enjoyed was teaching without technology. What are you going to do if the technology fails? What are you going to do if your PowerPoint fails? And we talked about active learning techniques in that classroom, and it was a leaderless discussion, so everybody that attended just kind of went around and talked about what they were doing in their classes or their colleges to implement teaching without instruction. So I found that to be pretty interesting.
My name's Heather. I'm part-time. Anyways, I went to the Lilly conference, and there was two specific presentations that I liked. But oddly enough, they were leaderless presentations, one where it was supposed to be and one where the presenter actually just didn't show up. But I actually think I got a lot more out of those than I did than the rest of the presentations that I went to, specifically because I kind of came to the Lilly conference with questions, and in the regular presentations I wasn't really getting answers to my questions, where in the leaderless ones I actually could speak up and ask a question, and then I had a whole room full of people around me that they would give suggestions. So I thought that was really cool. That's why I kind of like those more. The two that were leaderless that I went to was, like Angela had mentioned, teaching without technology. And I thought that was kind of really cool. What does happen, when your PowerPoint fails, or, you have those little clickers in the classroom for surveys. What do you do then without that? And one of the things they gave an example of is having these little cards. So you can make up these cards, either red or green. And so obviously green is yes and red is no. So you can still, ask the questions that you want to ask. And do it without the clickers. And then also another way to do it, is a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So again, thumbs up means yes, thumbs down means no. So I just kind of thought that was really interesting. The next one was the humor one that Ellie had mentioned earlier. And I specifically went to that one because I do use a lot of humor in my class. So I have, those little memes. I have a lot of Freud jokes. I have all different types of humor, in my class. And so I was kind of looking to beef it up a little bit more, because some of the things that I think are funny, my students don't necessarily think are funny. And I'm not sure if it's because they just don't get it, because it's like psychology, or if I'm just lame. So yeah. So that's why I went to the humor one. And I was kind of disappointed at first because the presenter didn't show up. So I was like, oh crap, what am I supposed to do now? I was really looking forward to this one. But then it was really nice because we just kind of went around the room, again, like the leaderless discussion on technology, or teaching without technology. And everybody just kind of gave suggestions, what they do, what some of the things their kids are into, like these, what is it called? Like a graphic novel or something? Okay, yeah, like a graphic novel. And they have them on all different types of different things, and like real things happen, like history and stuff like that. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, and I was thinking, maybe I should try to Google it to see if I can come up with like a psych version of one or something like that. So I got a lot of different websites to where I can create my own jokes and my own comics. So I found that helpful, but at the same time, I'm not sure if my students are going to get it. So yeah, I might have to like turn down the site just a little bit. But I thought those were really, really helpful.
My name is Karen Schutte. I am the student support coordinator, as well as I work part-time as an academic advisor, advising the transfer of science students as well as our transitional studies students. I work in the Student Success Center. My primary goal at Trends is to learn what is going on with our special populations, is to learn what we can do to be creative and help our students that need some help, whether it's accommodations in the classroom or financial or what we can do. Recently, my budget was cut for the gas card program, so now I'm finding myself being more creative as how we can help these students out that are going through troubled times. And I guess one thing I would like to let everybody know is that you can come to the Student Success Center, and any of us up there can help you. We have a lot of resources in line where we can let the students know where they can go for this kind of help. I have always operated that portion on the special populations, on that I can give somebody a little bit of financial help, but what they really need is some long-term help to be successful in classes. So there's where we do a lot of workshops and a lot of educational things, study skills, time management, different things that students need to help them be successful. The main session that I went to, which was like a 5-hour session on Wednesday, was for ADA compliance, because there's a lot of changes in the interpretation of that. And sitting there and listening to my colleagues, and for me, it's mostly the networking when I go to these things. I realize that they probably have the same issues that I have, and so one thing that I've realized through it is that I am not educating our instructors enough about exactly what it is my office does. I do not do psych evals for students. I do not decide what their disabilities are. A psychologist will do that. What they do is they bring me documentation. The student and I sit down and we have a discussion about where their deficiencies are, and then I apply the accommodations. And the accommodations that are the most frequently applied are audio text, as well as longer time for test, or even test readers if there's some kind of disability for that sake. The instructors do receive notification from me so that they know what's going on. I take the responsibility for it, other than the instructor does have to send the test to me. So that's probably the big thing I got out of that, is it hit me like, the V8 thing. Okay, Karen, you need to do some education here with the instructors so they know what they can get, because we're all on the same team. We all want the same thing. We want our students to be successful. One thing that I did go to a couple teaching portions, because I do teach the study skills and the college survival and success, so I wanted to see what I could do to implement that a little bit better. And the same thing that everyone is saying is the interaction, getting the students to be actively involved. These two classes contain a lot of at-risk students. So one of the things that I focus on, and I found that I'm in the norm, is to get these students to feel like a part of the campus, because if you feel a part about something, it makes you more vested. And so I went to one session where we did talk about a lot of things like I am doing. I have my college survival class working on some service learning project. They have 3 groups going, and they're actually implementing those. I've been working with Ellie very closely. And so that was very exciting to me to see that we're on the right track with the learning cohort. We're on the track where these students can go to their reading class together, then they can go to their writing class together, then go to their math class together, then they come see me and study skills or college survival, and they can talk about what's going on and how they're feeling about things. So that's typically what I go to Trends for, is to get all those little tidbits from other colleges on how they're handling these situations, because we are all in the same boat. It's a little bit different than, exactly, and like I said, that was like the big learning point for me, was a personal learning point of, okay, I need to talk to these instructors more, and how do you deal with somebody that looks different in the classroom, whether they're Down syndrome, in a wheelchair, blind, deaf, whatever it is. How do you deal with that? So that's something I'm going to be working on.
We would like to thank those that came in and shared their information from the Trend and Lilly Conference. Special thanks to Ellie, Karen, Heather, Angela, Krista, Greg, Marcel, and Kevin. Our apologies to Marcel and Kevin for having lost their audio during their conversation with us. Thank you again for sharing. This video is presented to you by the Center for Teaching and Learning. If you would like more information in regards to what you saw presented in the video, please contact the Center for Teaching and Learning at extension 500